My name is Laura. I am 34 and a single mom, and I learned the hard way that in my family the word family is just another way to say control. On Christmas Eve, I was standing in my parents' living room, watching my son hover near the dessert table in his little sweater, cheeks pink from running around the house. My mom picked up the last slice of Christmas pudding, looked straight at him, then turned to the room and said, "Only family gets to eat." She laughed. My sister's kids giggled with their plates already loaded with seconds, and everyone went right back to talking as if my child had not just been told he did not belong. My son swallowed, forced a smile, and whispered that he was not hungry anyway. I could see his eyes shine, and in that moment something in me snapped into place. I did not throw a scene. I did not shout or flip the table. I just took a slow breath, walked over, and told him to grab his coat. While my mom called after us asking where we were going, I said we had everything we needed at home and closed the door on the smell of dinner and the sound of their laughter. I honestly thought that was going to be the worst part of the night. The very next morning, my phone lit up with 33 missed calls from my mom and one panicked voicemail about how they were sealing everything and how I needed to call her back right now. I stared at the screen for a long time, felt years of guilt and obligation finally burn off, and when I did answer, all I said was, "Shh, we are not family." If you have ever watched someone swing the word family around like a weapon instead of a promise, stay with me, because that one slice of dessert was just the beginning of how my parents lost their money, their image, and both of their children. That night, after I shut the door on my parents' perfect Christmas, I drove home in tight, angry silence while my son stared out the window. His name is Noah. He is 10, and he kept tracing little circles in the fog on the glass like he was trying not to cry. When we walked into our small Chicago townhouse, I hung up our coats, forced my voice to sound normal, and told him we were going to make our own dessert. I warmed milk, stirred in cocoa, sprayed the last of a can of whipped cream, and handed him a mug of hot chocolate while he curled up on the couch. I put on one of those corny Christmas movies on Netflix, the kind where everyone forgives each other for years of damage in the last 5 minutes. Halfway through, Noah said, "Mom, did I do something wrong?" I paused the movie and sat next to him. "No," I said. "You did everything right. What your grandmother said tonight was wrong, not you." He stared at his mug. "She said only family gets dessert. Are we not family?" My chest hurt. "We are," I told him. "And one day you will understand that sharing a last name does not give anyone the right to decide who matters. For now, I just need you to know none of this is your fault." He nodded, but I could see the way he tucked the hurt away like kids do when they realize adults are not going to fix it. When he finally fell asleep on the couch, I carried him to bed, tucked him in, and then just sat in the hallway in the dark. I had spent years swallowing moments like this when they were aimed at me. Watching them humiliate my kid flipped a switch I did not know was still there. The next morning, my alarm went off at 7. For a few seconds, I forgot about the party. Then I grabbed my phone and saw it. 33 missed calls from Mom and one new voicemail. I made coffee, hit play, and listened to her voice. "Laura, you need to call me back. They are sealing everything. The lawyer says, if we do not move fast, we could lose the house and the retirement. You cannot just ignore this. You are part of this family, whether you like it or not." That was it. Not a single word about Noah or dessert, or the way she told my son to his face that he was not family. Just pure panic about money and assets and whatever she meant by sealing everything. I stood barefoot on the cold kitchen tile and thought about how many times my parents had dressed control up as concern. After my divorce, my dad once suggested putting his name on the deed to my place, just to help with the mortgage, he said, so things would be simpler for the family. I told him no, and he acted like I had personally attacked him. Ever since then, money and property have been his favorite weapons. Now here we were again, except this time the thing he seemed terrified of losing was tied to my name. I did not call my mom back. I texted instead. You made it clear last night that my son and I are not family. Handle your house and your retirement with your lawyer. Then I blocked her number, not forever, just long enough to stop the constant buzzing and hear my own thoughts. About an hour later, my phone lit up with a different name. Chris, my older brother. He almost never called unless our parents were in the room. I answered anyway. What the hell happened last night? He asked. Mom is freaking out. Dad is pacing around talking about lawyers and ungrateful children. I told him what happened at the dessert table and what she said to Noah. On the other end of the line, he went quiet. I saw him standing there. He said finally. I told myself I was overreacting, that Mom was just stressed. I guess I did what I always do. I let it go. Of course he did. Chris has spent his whole life smoothing things over, pretending their worst moments were no big deal. I am not asking you to fix them, I said. I am just done letting them use the word family as leverage. They want my name on their paperwork and their trust and their house, but they cannot even give my kid a slice of pudding. If we are not family at the table, we are not family at the bank. There was a long pause, and then he said something I did not expect. Okay. Tell me what you want me to do. And that was the moment this stopped being about dessert and started being about their precious legacy. When I blocked my mom's number, I honestly thought I might get a day or two of peace before the next wave of drama. But I forgot one important thing about my parents. They love an audience. A few hours after I talked to Chris, I was scrolling through Facebook while Noah played video games in the living room, and there it was. A brand new post from my mom at the top of my feed. A picture of my parents' living room, the Christmas tree glowing, the table full of food. My sister standing there with her kids in their matching pajamas, everyone smiling like an advertisement for the perfect suburban holiday. The caption said, "Feeling so blessed for family this year. Nothing matters more." My stomach turned. I zoomed in on the photo out of habit, looking for myself, looking for Noah, even though I already knew. We were not there. The angle made it obvious that the picture had been taken after we left, like they had literally framed us out of their narrative. I stared at the words "so blessed for family" and heard her voice from the night before. Only family gets to eat. My notifications pinged again, this time a text from my sister. Why did you bail last night? Mom said Noah was being difficult. I sat there for a second, choosing my words very carefully. You saw what happened with the dessert, I typed back. She looked at my kid and told him only family gets to eat, and then gave your kid seconds. There was a pause. The typing dots popped up, disappeared, popped up again. Finally, she replied, "You are being dramatic. It was a joke. You know how Mom is. You cannot blow up the whole family over one awkward comment." That was the thing. To Emily, it was always one comment, one joke, one moment, never a pattern. I stared at the message and realized we were not having the same conversation. She had grown up as the golden child, the one they bragged about at dinner parties, the one who could screw up and still get rescued. I had grown up as the example of what not to be. I did not bother arguing. I just replied, if it was a joke, it was at my son's expense, and I am done letting them laugh. Then I set my phone down and pulled out an old notebook from the kitchen drawer, the one I used to write grocery lists and half-finished resolutions in. On the first clean page, I wrote a date, and then I started listing every time I could remember my parents choosing a favorite or using money to pull the strings. The time they skipped Noah's birthday party to take my sister and her kids on a trip to the lake house. The time they told me I should be grateful they watched Noah for a weekend and then turned around and held it over my head when I would not co-sign a loan. The time my dad suggested again that it would be easier if the house was in his name, for taxes, for the family, for our future. Seeing it all in black ink made me feel less crazy. It was not one dessert. It was a lifetime of being told.